my name is Nicholas Carter, and today we will be talking about recreation impacts on soil. So, as you know, different recreation activities are going to have different levels of impact on soils. Hiking, for instance, is going to have a much lower impact on soil health than riding around in a four-wheeler. Both of these activities also differ in the effect that they have on soils. When hiking, you're compacting the dirt beneath your feet with every step, right? It's not so bad when one person does it, but when tens to hundreds are compacting the same soil every day, the soil and vegetation health is going to decline rapidly. Vehicles, on the other hand, are both compacting and eroding the soils at a faster rate. So you think like a four-wheeler or a car, it's going to be very heavy, it's pushing all that dirt down, compacting it, but also those fast-spinning tires are going to be throwing up the loose topsoil into the air, so you've got kind of a double effect going on. Soil moisture is an important factor to consider when looking at the effects of compaction on a recreation area. When undisturbed, soils can retain a moisture level that is appropriate for the plants that grow there. But when they're compacted, soils lose their ability to retain water, as you can see in the images. When the ground is dry, there's no plant growth there, it can't hold enough water to support growth. And conversely, when it's wet, the water cannot properly absorb into the soil, and you just end up getting this like messy, puddly area that we're looking at here. So soil compaction. Obviously it's bad, but why is it bad? What does it do? So if you look at the illustration, you can see on the left-hand side, the soil is very loose, it's not compacted, and it might be hard to see, but the plant has roots growing deep down into the soil. And then on the right, soil is a lot more compacted, there's not a lot of space in there, and the plant can't get its roots down into the soil. So the porosity of the soil is reduced, and it's hard for the plants to spread their roots through the soil. And as we talked about earlier, when the soil loses its porosity, it can't retain water so well, which will cause a lot of water to stand on top and then run off and get rid of that top layer. Cycle of erosion. As we move into the erosion section, there's a little graphic here that I'll go into detail on to explain kind of how erosion just keeps on feeding into itself. So in a recreation area, let's say we have 500 people come in, and out of those 500 people, 200 of them walk off the trail on this same spot. Well, that little trampling in that one spot is going to scuff away all that leaf litter, so then there's no organic material to decompose and put nutrients into the soil. And there's also not as many fine little particles, so you get a reduction in your soil macroporosity. And that leads into a reduction in air and water permeability. It's harder for plants to get down in there, it's harder for water to get in there, reduction in water infiltration rate, and an increase in water runoff is going to take that loose topsoil that had nutrients just right off, and there's your increase in erosion. And that keeps on cycling through itself and spreading and making an erosion area bigger. So here we've got two types of erosion. There's a lot of types of erosion. Today we're just going to look at sheet erosion and gully erosion. So sheet erosion happens at the top layer of the soils, where water runoff will pull away all the loose topsoils and organic matter, as if you were taking off a sheet of the dirt, right? This is going to make it difficult for new plants to establish, since the loose soil and nutrients that seedlings need to grow and establish has been washed away. You've got the hard, compacted, like deeper soils, right? In gully erosion, it kind of splits a landscape in two. You can kind of see by this picture. So that's typically happening when you've got a flash flood or heavy rainfall. All that high energy and high volume water hits the soils quickly, and it will form just little runoff rivers that will just keep pulling soil with them and eventually create these gullies that you see. And that's obviously, of course, why it's named gully erosion. So how can we prevent erosion? as managers, say in a recreational setting, planting vegetation with deep roots is kind of critical to keeping soil in place. Roots serve to keep the soil tight and compacted and prevents water from coming through and just carrying it off. Rocks, you can also use rocks. Rocks will stop the flow of water as it's passing over or through the dirt and will interrupt its ability to gain speed and carry that soil with it. But if you're looking to help prevent erosion as someone who's just out recreating, staying on the trails is number one. Also making sure to, not go too far off, or making sure you're following LNT. All those things are very important. Thank you very much, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day.